All right. Welcome to the show. My guest today is Drew Camp. Drew's a former collegiate athlete. He's an Army veteran. He's a husband, a father, and an entrepreneur who's launched the Epic Dad Company. Excited to have him on the show. Drew Camp, welcome, my man.
Jake, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, man. Thank you for bringing me on, brother.
Dude, and I thank you again. You sent me some of your pre-workout supplements. You also sent me this. Well, you sent me two shirts. This one is this. You can't really see it that well here.
Girl Dad AF.
It's Girl Dad AF, and it's got that. It's got like an AR on it, and it's pink. It's cool.
You hopped up on the pre-workout this morning.
Oh man, I haven't actually hit my workout yet today, but I took it 2 days ago. I don't know, it fired me up, man. It's I got that good stuff. I got the. I'm really sensitive to whatever that like tingle is.
Beta-alanine.
Mm-hmm. Say that again. Beta what?
It's beta-alanine.
Yeah. So anytime that something has it, I always feel it. That makes me feel like it's working though. I always feel like, when you get a response, you're like, yeah.
Like you can definitely like overdo it, or you're like scratching your face during your workout, But
no,
I think you've just got like the right amount in there.
Yeah, I've actually done that with other supplements before. Is like taking too much of the pre-workout.
You're like
I'm just kind of sitting there like like a little hamster, just scratching my cheeks. But not with yours, man. I think I used the right ratio. Hey, man, let's talk about how we met real quick. I was at we were both a couple months ago over at one of George Bryant's events, and if folks don't know who George is, he's such a inspirational, passionate entrepreneur. He puts on really great events around digital marketing, around just getting into your right heart space to run a business. He's phenomenal at that kind of stuff. But, you were one of the first people I met at that event, and you and I met. It was empty gym basically. And there we are, like lifting weights in the morning, getting after it. And of course I kind of had the feeling that you were probably attending the event, but we didn't know each other. And we got into talking, man. And we started talking about like, hey, why is this gym empty? And why is it just me and you in here? It's a long day. It's a long day of sitting. It's a beautiful day in Montana. Why aren't more people starting out their day with this lift, bro?
Yeah. I think, man, George's event was incredible. It was the first event that I've been to that's been like that. It's been like obviously business focused, but like so much stuff just around life in general, that I wasn't really expecting. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I like whenever I'm traveling, I like to get up, like hit the gym, like get my day started right. And just assume that like given the crowd, there'd be, the gym be packed at like 5:30 in the morning. But empty gym. And same thing. I saw you there, Jake. And I was like, I bet he's probably here for the event.
Yeah,
and then,
for sure.
We started chatting. And then I remember the first day we had to put on our name tag. Just like an adjective for us, and I was thinking like the whole time, I was like, I don't know, man, like what the right adjective is. And I think I put driven. And then, we met at the events, like post the gym that morning, and you had the same adjective. I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Like we were both at the gym this morning, like we were both at the same adjective. So a lot of similarities there.
I tell you what, it is a to be driven. And for those who might not be as driven, it's an operating system, man. It really is. I mean, you have to prescribe to it. You have to wake up and you have to say like, I'm going to do this. This is for the betterment of me. I'm working my plan. I have to be able to go do these things. It's something that I'm proud of because I haven't always been wired this way. You've always been a driven guy, something you've always.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. A lot of it goes back like to the military and kind of, having that like discipline instilled in you, and I struggle with it, all the time too. Right. Like my family's been going through a transition over the past 5 months where we kind of moved to a different state. Now we're moving to another state, and just a lot of movement. And so it kind of gets you off your rhythm, off your routine. So it's something I've been struggling with here recently, but yeah, I mean, I think, just getting up, like trying to have some type of morning routine, trying to get the day started right is just like setting me off on the right foot,
Yeah, for sure. So you tell me a little bit about you. I love a good like Genesis story. I usually start the podcast out with something like that, especially folks like you who have a brand that's tied to an aspiration, right? And so like I want to get into like who Drew is a little bit. Like where are you originally from? And then how'd you find yourself playing collegiate baseball? Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah. No. So I grew up just a little bit north of Atlanta. Kind of normal childhood, right? Kind of middle class. Never wanted for anything, but wasn't like super rich or anything like that. Yeah, for me, man, baseball was life. So started playing baseball. Probably from the time I could stand up, I was swinging a bat and throwing a ball. So kind of grew up in that space, and obviously played high school ball, played summer ball, fall ball, basically year round, right? And then in high school, actually, well, first of all, I've kind of always had an interest in the military too. So I think at some point, I knew that I was going to take that route. That was just like an inevitability. But when September 11th happened, I was in ninth grade. And that had a really big impact on me, like even as a 14-year-old. I knew that, hey, like I needed to step up and do something about this. And so I remember vividly asking my mom when I was 14, how old do you have to be to join the army? and her reply was, you have to be 25.
Good mom.
Yeah. So like I said, I knew that was going to be an eventuality for me at some point. Yeah, played baseball through high school and had the opportunity to go play college ball. And that's hard to pass up, right? I mean, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so kind of postponed the military for a few years to go play baseball. I probably majored in baseball and minored in marketing.
All right.
But college, great experience. And then had a few things happen in college actually that impacted me. I went to a school, a D2 school down in South Georgia called Valdosta State University. Incredible baseball team there. We just a legacy, like our coach was the winningest D2 coach in like all of history. But had an event where I had a buddy take his own life my junior year on the baseball team, and that just had a really big impact on me. Was really close to him, and we were actually going to end up joining the military together. And so that had an impact. I actually moved schools. Honestly, just had to like get out of there. And went to a school called Georgia Southwestern State University. That's tiny. Nobody's ever heard of it. Terrible baseball program.
It's always interesting. Like you can tell the size of a school for the most part, that if it has both the name of the state and then two cardinal directions.
Yeah.
You're like, now Northwestern might be the only exception to that rule, but like generally, if you're saying Georgia Southwestern State or whatever,
you're like, the longer the name is too, right?
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, the baseball program was absolutely horrendous there. Like, did not have a good time. But the silver lining there was I met my wife. So I think when you just look at the 30,000 foot view, of kind of how God is moving the pieces. That was obviously a play there. If that wouldn't have happened and had a negative thing in my life happen to move me, I would have never met my wife. Right. So, extremely grateful, for that event, although it was a tragedy. It set me on a path to meet my wife.
Yeah. So then you met your wife while you were playing baseball in college. And then how difficult was that then to go off and execute this plan to go into the military, man? I bet.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was a tough choice.
Yeah. My wife broke up with me, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times when we were in college, just because, like I said, the eventuality for me, like I had my mind made up of like, hey, post-graduation, this is something I'm going to do. And so, we struggle with that. Right. And at the end of the day, like we made a decision to make it work. We actually ended up getting hitched right after basic training in airborne school. And then moved up to Fayetteville, North Carolina, man, for the 82nd Airborne Division. And that was a great time. Was active for 4 years. The 82nd is, if you guys don't know, it's got a lot of history with World War II, and it's an airborne division. So what we would do is train pretty much 24/7. We go jump out of planes, go blow stuff up, go shoot, just kind of all in preparation for a deployment cycle. Very heavy and high op tempo, and then had the opportunity to go deploy to Afghanistan in 2012 and do a tour there. It's called RC South. It's kind of right outside of Kandahar, and had good experience with the deployment. And then honestly, just after that was kind of over to the Army.
Yeah.
Of like,
you
hey,
got what you wanted, man, right?
And I've done my time. Want to go see, kind of what's out in the civilian side of the house. So exited the Army, active duty, and then just went to work. So I worked at one of the big four consulting firms for almost 4 years. Went back to grad school to go get my MBA, and then have been just working in the corporate space ever since. And then obviously I've had a couple kids since then, right? And all that's really led me to, like, I think we were talking about being driven before. And I think part of being driven is, like, you want to make an impact, and leave that legacy. And I think, although I'm really good at what I do in the corporate sphere, I want to kind of chart my own path, right? And so that was kind of the genesis for the Epic Dad Company was, what am I passionate about? So fatherhood, fitness, and really, like, how do I think I can impact other dads and create a brand around that?
Yeah. So let's, I love to peel this back a little bit more, because it's
Yeah.
like, as a man who is actively going out and saying, like, hey, as fathers, as husbands, we need to be doing a better job. Like, we need to become epic. We need to show up, and then that will equal some kind of uh large impact to society. Like, what got you to that point? What were some of those triggers that, like, we're not showing up in the way that we could be as fathers collectively?
Yeah, I think I think you and I would probably agree that, like, as a country, we're not in the best spot right now.
Sure.
Just looking at a declining culture, looking at declining education, and it seems like, the role of the father has started to take a back seat. And masculinity is being viewed as toxic. Fatherhood is being viewed as toxic, and kind of those old school things that we would teach our kids. Things like personal responsibility, accountability, being responsible for your decisions and things like that is kind of viewed in a negative light right now. And that's been going on for 20 to 30 years, right? And we're starting to see the result of that now show up. So when you just look at the statistics from fatherless homes, the kids in homes without fathers are more likely to commit suicide, right? They're more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to commit violent crimes. Just kind of run the gamut, right? If you look at the stats, kind of what is the common denominator, and it's the father. So that's also part of the genesis of the company is, like, although we're playing a small part in, like, making sure you're getting your body right. I think what will end up happening is the more epic dads that we can create, we're going to see that generational impact, 20 to 30 years from now. If we on an individual basis can do the right thing for our family and show up for our family the right way, that's going to impact our kids, which is going to impact the next generation. So it's really easy to look at the world and be like, hey, it's there's so many problems going on right now. Like, what impact can I have? But when you really come down to it, it's on the individual decisions that you make as a dad that's going to create that impact. And on the broad scope, if more men do that, it's going to create that impact.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. Like, the stats, if you really dive into them, and actually Derek Clark, who's known as the rapping dad, he was one of the first guests that I had on the podcast. He was like one of my first 15. He lives here in Idaho, and he opened my eyes to the amount of father absence that there is in this country. 1 in 4 children grow up without a biological step or adopted father in the United States. It's about 20 million children every year or in that situation. And yeah, to your point, it does cascade down into prisons. It cascades down into the way that those men show up in their lives for families that they've created without thought in a lot of instances, or commitments that they fail to keep to themselves or their potential wives or babies' moms or whatever, however you want to live your life, that's fine, but be there for your kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. It just has such an impact, right? Of not having a dad in the home. And, like I said, if you look at the stats and you kind of just look at what's the common denominator, over the past 20 to 30 years, like, that's the one that sticks out, right? And it's the one that nobody really wants to talk about, but it's the one that's going to have the biggest impact on the next generation.
Yeah. So then let's talk about fixing it, man. Let's talk about what your premise or the hypothesis. You can do what for these fathers through the company that you've created?
Yeah. So great question. So I think we're still early on in the company, still trying to define like what is our mission, our vision. Like we know that we want to create this impact. We're still trying to figure out what's the best way to get there. But
Yeah.
we've created a few things that kind of like a philosophy or a methodology that like I think is going to help. And it's we we have a goal planner that we use, and we try to coach people on that really breaks down like what you want to do into four categories. So it's your body, your mind, your relationships, and your financials, or be real motherfucker. Just pretty easy to remember, right? And then in that, right, we set kind of aspirational goals, and then we set 90-day targets, and then it's really just like a daily action of like can you accomplish what you said you're going to accomplish? And so that's kind of the framework. And like there's obviously that F, right, that family. There's a lot of things you can be doing. And it really just comes down to intentionality with your family. And when you're with your family, being with your family, like a common saying that I use in kind of all my email sign-offs is, you don't want to be there 100% of the time with your family at 60% effort. Like you want to be there with your family 60% of the time at 100% effort, and kind of flipping those roles, right? So a lot of what we talk about is like self-care, personal development, to make sure that you're filling your bucket so you can be there and be intentional with your kids.
So again, those the be real motherfucker. That's body, relationships, mind, and family. Is that right?
And financials.
Well, financials. Okay. So like let's talk about physical fitness, man. It's stressful to be a father. It's stressful. It's a change of life. There's an upfront energy tax associated with a change that you've got to make in this way, man. So like how can you one disrupt your schedule tremendously and still have the perspective or the wherewithal to get your physical fitness in, work out? Like how might you fit that into your life? Help us understand what you're coaching these guys on.
Yeah. So, but like I said, if you want to be intentional with your family, you're blocking off time for them, right? And so you need to do the same type of thing with your fitness. So everybody's going to have a different schedule. Some people are going to, work in the morning. Some people work nights, et cetera. Some people can potentially structure some things during the day, but I think it all comes back to intentionality of like, hey, let me sit down and take the time to understand how does my day work? Like, how can I structure it so I can fit some of that time in? Like, you have to be realistic too, right? Like as a father and as an engaged father, you're not gonna be able to go to the gym for like 3 hours and just like pump out curls, and stand in the mirror like you maybe would before you had kids. So I think it's being intentional from structuring your day to find out when does it work for me? How can I hold myself accountable to hit that? And then how can I be most efficient with my time too? Yeah. So that's what I do. That's what we coach people on, is really just like time blocking and being like, hey, what am I going to do today? At what point in time am I going to do it? And then just holding yourself accountable.
And there's a stigma associated with blocking out quote family time. And what I mean by that is like, it was a hard hurdle for me to get to because my calendar's filled every day.
Yeah.
It's filled every day. If I don't start with my family first and say, when are date nights going to happen with my wife? What days do the kids not have sports in the afternoon that we could sit down and watch a movie together or have a board game? Or, let's make sure the family dinners get on the calendar as often as I can be home in the evenings. Like, if we're not blocking those out, we'll miss the opportunity.
Yeah.
And my default operating system, I've been honest about this for years, is procrastination. And it does. I'm driven, but I'm driven because I know myself. Yeah. And I will waste time. I am my own worst enemy when it comes to time. I've got to really be purposeful to get myself out of the chair and be like, let's go dominate. And I've got to do it with like mantras and mindset and focus, because I am a lazy person that's hiding behind a person who's highly motivated right now. And if I upset that balance, things start to unravel for me. And the only way that I keep that balance is if I'm sitting there time boxing stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the stigma comes in where it's like, well, you've got to you've only got 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. with your family on your calendar. It's like, what else do you want me to do? Like, I'm working in the morning, I'm working throughout the day. I try to take the vacations that I can when I try to be as present as I can in those times, but that's how it shows up in my calendar.
Yeah. And I think too, like if you don't put it in your calendar, right, like stuff's going to start to creep in.
Yeah.
Right. And so, when you say, hey, I want to be there 6:30 to 8:30 with my kids, if you don't put that on your calendar and are intentional about that, you're going to be like, oh shit, I got work to do.
Yeah.
Like that's going to creep into, 7:30. And you're not disciplined about it. And so like, it's almost kind of switching that mindset of like, if it's important, like I'm going to schedule it, even if it seems like that's something I shouldn't schedule,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way of saying that. If it's important, I'm going to schedule it, even if it doesn't seem like something that should be scheduled.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like, I just went through this cycle, this like 2-month cycle where I was really focused on business development, expanding some of my network, going out and getting new perspectives. And I found myself lunches and dinners all the time. Like I was
Yeah.
just meeting with people all the time. And like, I was rushing to everything. And I'm like, oh, like, one, I'm not making enough time for my family. Two, I'm out of balance. Three, I'm not going to the gym as much as I want to. Like all
Yeah.
of those things, because I made a commitment to some business development, or again, expanding relationships, expanding my perspective. A lot of other stuff suffered. And it's
Yeah.
like, you got to go build it back. You have to sit beside yourself and be aware of it. Which probably goes into that mindset. That second thing that you're talking about. So when you say body and then you say mind, what do you mean by
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. So mind is really just like trying to be like at peace with yourself. And what we write down for mind is really like, I'll actually pull up exactly what we say. I've got our planner right here.
Oh, awesome.
So mind is everything that is clarity, focus, peace, vision, religion, and spirituality. So all those things kind of fit within that bucket, right? And so like, I think what we do is we try to write down like outcome or aspirational goals for each of these categories. So like mine, my aspirational goal for mind, I'll actually read you what I have here. Let's see. Well, actually, I'll read you my 90-day goal on this. My 90-day goal is really, like I said, I've been out of balance myself because we've been in a transition period. And so, it's hard to create that structure and those time boxes, like when we're, living in a transition house, building a house, moving across the country, all that stuff. Right. So my 90-day goal is to have my, my morning routine nailed down to where, I get up, I have a meditation period, I have a breath work period. And I have some prayer during that time as well. And like, that just really helps me like be at peace with myself. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about kind of your mind. It's anything that could fall under that. That's really going to like, allow you to operate at max capacity, and address those things that are going on within your mind and your spirit, and really like allowing yourself that time.
Yeah. No, that's powerful, man. I think about, too, like, as you're saying this, it's like, you've got to build that relationship with your inner dialogue and reinforce it with like positive things, or at least provide it some stillness to work out whatever it needs to work out. Like that's one thing I've had such a hard time over the years of like really identifying. I do a pretty good job of it right now. But again, we talked about balance. Sometimes I'm out of balance with it, but just being still and breathing and letting it come to you, and just enjoying the moment of being a person, having a human experience. Like there's a lot of power in that going into your day.
Yeah,
So I think you're
there
onto
is.
something for sure.
Yeah, it's something that I haven't done, all the time. It's something I've started to implement recently. Even doing that cold plunge that we did out in
Yeah.
Montana, right? That was the first time I've done that. And just jumping into that frigid water, and just like being fully present in the moment, and just focusing on breathing, right? Like there's something powerful about that.
You did good, man. For a guy who hasn't jumped into a freezing cold lake. I mean, we jumped into a freezing cold
It was
lake.
cold, man. It was very cold.
um,
And then I'll say too on the mind front, is one thing I didn't mention was building like mental resiliency. And one thing that I've tried to implement every day, is to kind of mimic that cold plunge, right? Like I don't, we're transitioning right now. I don't have like a bath I can go jump in, but it's really just like doing something every day that where your mind is saying, no, I don't want to do that, but you overcome that and you do it anyway. I think that's just super important to, like I said, build up that resiliency, build up that discipline muscle. That's going to be like hugely impactful for you. So what I've started to implement, is a 30-second cold shower.
There you go.
And it's not fun. I don't like doing it. But towards the end, like you feel amazing. One, it's really good for you, good for your muscles, good for your body. But also I feel really great because I just did something that I don't want to do. And I overcame that, so even just something as small as that you can do on a daily basis is just gonna, like I said, build up your resiliency.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's I love the cold. I'm a big fan. I do get in cold baths on a regular basis. I do take cold showers on a regular basis. I think that there's a lot of like cold plunge nerds out there that'll be like a 30-second cold shower. You're
Yeah, I don't
hardly
do
scratching
anything.
the
Yeah,
top of it, whatever. But what you're calling out is I'm doing something I don't want to do. And
yep.
I am continuing to build my internal plumbing to
Mhm.
be okay with that. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who seek comfort and like seeking discomfort even for 30 seconds, even in a way that's like that you physically are like, I would never do this unless I was fulfilling this promise to myself. That's a beautiful
exactly.
thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's small, it's just like something that, you said you were going to do. You don't want to do it, but you're holding yourself accountable and doing it anyway. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's just going to be huge for, if you look at that and you start to structure your day with those little things that are needle movers that you're like, I don't want to do this. Or if you get into that where I'm a lot like you, Jake, and that like I'm lazy by nature. So I have to do these things where it's going to build up my mental toughness, my mental resiliency, and my discipline. And so like the more often that you do that, the bigger impact you're going to see on the bigger things, right? Of like, hey, these hard conversations that I don't want to have, like, you're like, oh shit, well, I've been taking a cold shower for the past month. Like, I think I can do this. So
Yeah. The other thing too is when we're talking about mind, it's like when you start really pushing yourself too, like when you get into that, like, and I've seen you in the gym, like you get after it, like you're pushing, you're there to do some work, and for the most part, I am too. When I get into the gym, but when you have that, like, let's go, motherfucker, like let's get this weight moved, like there's things to do today, like you're in that mindset, and you're not. And it's weird that that same person, that same savage, is then like kind of sitting there like
yeah,
meditating,
and right.
trying to find zen. But like if you're not doing that, you're not getting the other half of the push-up, if you will. You're not doing the other part of that work, which is like appreciating the fact that you're taking care of your vessel, appreciating the fact that you're taking care of your mind, appreciating the work that you have to do in any given day. So again, I can't help but think you're spot on, really pushing individuals to try to get into that mindset.
Yeah, and I think also what's important to note is like nobody's perfect too, right? Like I'm not perfect. Like I'm gonna miss a day for a workout and feel like crap, and there's some days I'll take a day off, but it's like on the aggregate, are you pushing yourself towards what your aspirational goal is? And then cutting yourself some slack too, right? Like we're all human and we're gonna
Yeah.
have bad days and we're gonna feel off, but as long as you're pushing towards that objective and making progress, like I think you're doing better than most people on the planet.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I want to pivot over back to we talked about your or supplements a little earlier in the podcast. One, the name I've got on the shirt that you sent me is Tedco. Help me understand that.
Yeah, so just the Epic Dad Company is kind of hard to write out. It's pretty long, right? So we just shortened it to Tedco.
I love it, dude. I was sitting there, I got the shirt and I took it out and I'd seen Tedco on things and I was like, I don't, but now that you say it, I feel silly because it's actually pretty intuitive. And then the other thing is on your website and actually on the pre-workout, it says it's formulated for people who
Yeah,
are living a busy life. Like, let's get nerdy for a second, man. Talk
yeah,
about
man.
formulation for fathers living busy lives. Like
Yeah, yeah.
how'd you do
So
that?
no, great questions, man. So like I before I started this company, I had like zero experience in like formulation. I'm was a heavy user of supplements, right? Like I probably tried every pre-workout on the market, all the proteins, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But have never even like looked at the back of the label. And then when I started this company,
I was gonna say I'm so guilty of that, dude. I don't know if what I'm taking sometimes is like if I was an athlete, if it would be a controlled substance or not. Like
yeah, right.
I don't know what I'm. I just sometimes I see the packaging. I'm like, oh look, that tastes like sour apple. Let's do it.
Yeah. Like I remember my first experience with like a pre-workout, right? Like they started getting hot in like I don't know, I guess like mid 2000s or something.
Yeah.
And I was actually in airborne school, and a buddy of mine was taking Jack 3D.
Oh yeah.
Which some guys will probably remember that, right? It had like all kinds of stuff in there that was like illegal. So and I remember there's a lot of reports of people like taking Jack 3D, going for a jog, and just like dropping down, dying, right? Like their heart is failing. And that was like my first experience with it. And I'm like,
I knew a guy who took some Jack 3D and he'd mix it with like NO Explode.
Yeah, dude.
And then he was just and he's just sitting there like benching, and it's like, it's like,
I mean, yeah, you may bench 500, but like
your heart is in there, just yeah.
And so yeah, like I never even like considered the label, right? And as I've started to get a little bit older, like I'm in my mid-30s now, like you can definitely feel an impact of what's going on in your body. And like I think especially once you have kids, like we've been talking about, you're super busy, you're stressed, like you need to start like being active about what you're putting in your body. And so when I started this company, that was kind of the mission behind it, was like, hey, I want to make sure like we actually have good ingredients in here and stuff that's going to like support overall health. But like I said, I'm not a formulator by nature. So when I started this company and we kind of targeted, hey, let's do a pre-workout first. I went through and tested, I don't know, probably somewhere between like 30 to 40 pre-workouts of just like, hey, let me leave a label, like, let me take this, see how I feel, right? And then I targeted a few that like had somewhat natural ingredients that we really liked. And I was like, hey, let's use this as a base, and then let's see, kind of where we go, right? And so after about probably 6 months of buying like bulk ingredients and just like mixing stuff like a chemist in my kitchen and like trying it, we got to a pretty good formulation to where we are now. And then, with that was, hey, we want to, have all natural ingredients here. So we've got to start thinking about like the flavor profile too. So had a lot of tweaks to the flavor, and I think we've got it to a point where like I am super, super proud of this pre-workout. It's got 7 ingredients in it. It's got, I'll actually pull it up to talk through the ingredient list here. So it's got BCAAs, L-citrulline, malate, beta-alanine, creatine monohydrate, caffeine anhydrous, L-theanine, and natural caffeine from green tea leaf. And that is it. And like I said, if you turn around labels from other pre-workouts in the market, like 9 times out of 10, what you're going to find is, there's ingredients that you have no idea what's in there, or they're hiding behind proprietary blends where they don't tell you what amount is in there. And it's just, it's not a great way to go about business, right? If you really want to care about what you're putting into your body.
It's always like confused me that so many products get to hide behind things like fragrance or proprietary blend. Like I feel like as a consumer, you should at least have some access to what's going in to your body if you choose to purchase the product. I just don't know how you can sell products that you can't see everything that's in it.
Yeah. And we've targeted this like just for, busy dads, right? And that's kind of the branding behind it. But like, true transparency is like, hey, this is a great pre-workout that anybody can take that's good for you. We brand it as this because we know it's going to help busy dads that are stressed, that are pressed for time, and that really need to start thinking about what they put in their body. But it's just a fantastic pre-workout. Like I am super, super proud of this product. And we just launched it about a month ago. It hit the market in small quantities, and we're just getting feedback from customers now. And all the reviews have been fantastic. And then we'll really look to, in 2022, try to grow the brand a little bit more and increase the supplement line. And everything I've been doing has been kind of on my own. And I think as we go into 2022, we'll start to make the brand probably a little bit more professional, on the marketing side, and hire a design team to help out with things, hire a marketing team, et cetera, to really try to blow up the brand a little bit where it's not just me.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got the pre-workout. You also got this like 7-day challenge and a handful of other things on like the fitness side. So how how does that work? How do people engage with you from that Epic Dad standpoint?
Yeah. So I think where I'm challenged right now is, obviously we have a pre-workout. We're going to have more supplements coming out that are designed just for dads. But we kind of talked about the overall mission of the company is like much broader than just like, hey, go get after it in the gym. And so what I'm trying to do is reach a much wider market. So the things that we put out on the content side, like the 7-day challenge, which is fantastic. It's free. If you feel like you're in a little bit of a funk, it's a great resource for you. And then we've also got, our goal planner, right? And so it's a lot of things on the content side that's going to broaden our scope of who we can impact. And then, hey, if you're ready to start using the gym and getting back into shape, like we've also got this supplement line that's going to help you out too. So I think we'll try to grow the brand in two different directions, from a content perspective to reach a wide audience. And then from a supplement perspective to reach like a very narrow niche audience that's, hey, I'm a dad. I'm into working out. I'm into, knowing what I'm putting into my body. But we'll probably start the journey from, hey, I'm a dad. I feel like I'm overstressed. I don't have any balance on my time or control over my time. Like, let's start you there. And then as we start to provide value, and one of those things is, hey, getting back into the gym and making sure you can stay in shape so you can be there for your family. Like, hey, we've also got supplements for you that's going to help you on that journey.
Yeah, 100%. I wonder for new dads, are you recommending, 15 burpees after a diaper change kind of thing? Like
Yeah,
what's
dude, that's what I'm talking about.
that's for me, man, when my son was born, I was a traveling consultant. I've told this story a little bit, so people are probably tired of it, but I'm just going to tell it again. But I would, I was flying to Los Angeles. I was working in LA 4 days a week or so. I'd fly back home. The gym at this hotel that I was in the sub basement. It was actually a really like depressing place to work out. And I wasn't in like a workout mindset. So I wasn't like Jocko. It's just like, there just needs to be a kettlebell there. I got it,
Yeah.
or like whatever. Like I wasn't in that space. So I'd go down there and it's just kind of like dark. And I wasn't used to people like walking by and like looking at me through the window. There was never people in that gym because it's LA and it's beautiful outside. I just didn't have the scaffolding to like understand how to actually like work out and get after it. And then I'd get home and, I was only home for 2 days. So like going to the gym seemed like I was like leaving and abandoning my family for the 2 days that I was actually home. And then I'd go back out and fly on the road. And I think it's really important to like, what can you do? And then like, how do you get in that space where I had a bunch of time in LA to go and do this? I just didn't take advantage of it. So like, how do you help people get into that mindset? How do you help them take advantage of the time that they do have or recognize the time that they do have in order to be fulfilled maybe in other areas?
Yeah, great question. I think kind of going back to what we talked about before of time boxing, what you can do is just like an audit on your time, right? If you go through a week and write down kind of every action that you're doing, you'll start to notice like, oh, well, I looked at Instagram for 6 hours this week, right?
Drank 2 bottles of wine in the hotel lobby.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, or like I was in consumption mode for for this many hours. Like,
Yeah.
how can I pivot that? And like, not saying that like you can't do that, right? But just be intentional about it, so you don't go down these rabbit holes where you can be like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna scroll through Instagram, but it's gonna be for 20 minutes, and I'm gonna put my phone down, right?
Yeah.
And so like I said, just being intentional about that time and like where you do have time. And then on the workout side, there are so many resources out there that are free, right? Like if you've never lifted a weight in your life, like hop on YouTube, man, like download a guide. Like there's a million things out there that's free that you can use just to start on a path.
Absolutely. I'm interested in your long-term vision. I mean, you've kind of alluded to this a little bit. You guys are kind of figuring these things out. Let's talk big, dude. 5 years from now, what and I know you reserve the right to change your mind and change the direction of companies and things like that. I get that, but I want to know what's that seed in your mind? What's it grow to?
Yeah, so I think it grows into kind of two separate avenues for the business. And one is going to be more around like personal branding and coaching, mentorship, things like that, that may or may not fall under the Epic Dad umbrella. Because I really find a lot of value in that, right? Like it's, kind of having that broad mission of like, hey, we want to have generational impact and really create epic dads. So I see, 5 years from now, having some type of coaching program, where we're talking through those four pillars, right? Your body, relationships, mind, and financials, and really helping dads get out of a funk and get on the journey towards like being the best husband and father they can be. And I'd say that takes up some of my time. And then on the supplement side, we really want to launch this into the stratosphere. Like I have very, very big ambitions for the supplement line. So within the next year, want to have a intra workout, then also a post workout. So we've got you covered at the gym. But where I think we can have an even bigger impact is just around nutritional supplements. So things like nootropics, when you're in the office, you can focus and be a provider for your family. Things around hydration, things around, green supplements, things like that. And just really have this brand be like the go-to and known in the market for, hey, I'm a dad, like that's the supplement I take, right? And so I think we'll get there for sure. Like we've got a roadmap of products we want to launch over the next couple of years. We're in the first inning, right? Like not even the bottom of the first inning. We're in the top of the first inning for where we're going to grow this thing. So I'm extremely excited about it. There's a lot of growth to come, but I'm actively every day, like I'm fresh for time too, just like you are, I'm sure. And so this isn't my full-time gig, right? So I've got to be very intentional about what are the needle movers every day I can take to push it forward until we get to that point where, I can transition out of my 9 to 5, focus fully on this and just kind of launch this thing to the stratosphere.
That's beautiful, man. And, and I can't help to think about a couple folks that I've had on the podcast that are making impacts in the space. We got Larry Hagner. You and I both know Larry with the Dad Edge. I'm actually a part of his group, the Dad Edge Alliance, and I find value in that as a man. Ryan Michler, Order of Man, he's been on. They talk about parenting and fatherhood and really connecting with what it means to be a man in this world. It's not an overly crowded space. I can tell you that. Like we need more people like you in this space offering options and alternatives and ways of thinking and just getting momentum in order to make an impact. So, what were you excited about and like kind of joining this community? I know you say you're in the first inning, man, but I mean, I don't know. You've got some supplements to offer. You've got some great advice going right now. It sounds like the coaching's taking off. So like, what do you think about the space right now?
I think it's awesome to see people stepping up and kind of finding their voice and creating an impact for other men, other dads, fathers in the space. I think it's something that's absolutely needed, and we're seeing it more and more. And I think we are seeing it more and more because there is a definite need for it. Yeah. And I think we're starting to understand that now of like, hey, where our culture is at, like it's a direct impact because men haven't been men, fathers haven't been fathers. And like, we're seeing the impact of that. And I think guys are just starting to get fed up, and being like, and starting to define their voice of like, hey, if we want to change it, like it's going to start at the individual level of like me stepping up, So I'm super excited about it to see more and more guys kind of taking this approach.
Yeah. And I think that there's an interesting thing going on in society with masculinity. And this is what I mean. I think it's really nuanced where it's, as a man, I don't have a problem with other men living their life the way that they want to at all. And I don't think that they should be necessarily like, you have to be this certain way to be called like a man. Right. I do think that's kind of what's toxic about it. But I think there are men who have attributes that are very traditional masculine. They're driven. They're super confident. They're not going to back down. They have strong opinions about things. And those people are demonized in a lot of ways. And I think it's, some of it rightfully so. The same group told everyone else how they should be in life, especially when we talk about like straight white men and the power structure that's existed in this society. Of course you should be demonized, a little bit, but as far as like taking back aspects of masculinity, taking back ownership around fatherhood, telling other people, no, you don't tell me how to be a dad. You don't tell me how to be a father. You can suggest to me, but I'm driving this forward and I'm making my path and I need to show up in these types of ways, regardless if you think so or not. Like that's what has to be said right now. to society or whatever. We need to give people space. We need to give men some space to figure this out, and not completely throw out some traditional wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, right? Like the kind of power structures that have dominated our society for a long time, like there's definitely some negative aspects to that too, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like there's a lot of great things that come from a masculine approach. Things like being a leader for your family, all right, of being a provider, of accountability, discipline, responsibility. And those are things that are just like, they're viewed as negative in our society today. But like, yeah, I have no idea why, right?
It's not the only way to live, but is a perfectly acceptable, and I think in a lot of ways, admirable way to aspire. You should be aspiring to something like that. And if you don't, that's fine. Do you, and if it works for you in your life, great. But don't tell somebody else that they're doing something wrong when all they're trying to do is act on the betterment of their family in a way that works for them.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of that. So
yeah.
Good, man. Well, hey, we've covered a lot of ground. Anything else that you're excited about coming up in the near future?
So I've got a son on the way, due in March. So I'm thrilled about that.
Congratulations, man.
I've got two girls, 5 and 3, and never thought I'd have a son for sure. Thought nothing but girls for me, but we'll see. That the doctors say it's a boy, but I don't know if I believe them until delivery day.
Until you have a boy in your hands, and then you can put that baseball bat in there, I'm sure.
That's right.
That's awesome, man. Hey, tell the folks who are listening where they can find you, where they can get to you if you're running any kind of promotions or anything right now, how to get a hold of your supplements or just reach out.
Yeah, for sure. So easiest way to get in touch is just on Instagram, where we're most active. It's just the Epic Dad Co. On Instagram. That's got links out to everything, from our supplements to the goal planner to the 7-day challenge. That's kind of the hub for us. And then for our pre-workout, like I said, we've got limited quantities right now. In 22, we'll look to launch it a little bit more. But if you guys are interested in that, the website is just theepicdad.com. Or we're on Amazon too. So just type in Tedco pre-workout and we'll be right there for you.
That's beautiful, man. Hey, I want to, again, before we part ways, just tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing. Like, I really, truly believe in what you're doing. That's why I asked you to come onto the podcast. I think it's amazing when people step into a space like that. They step into a space where they want to make an impact and help other people level up in their life and live the life that we're all capable of doing. Man, I appreciate you. And I can't wait to talk to you again, man. An open invite. Anytime you got something going on that you want to talk about or explore or whatever, dude, I'd love for the Jake Blanchard podcast to be one of your stops.
I appreciate it, Jake. And just last thing here is like, I don't want to present myself as like the dad guru, right? Like I'm living it every day, man. I'm struggling. I'm challenging. I'm challenged, but like, I feel like I've found my voice over the past like 3 or 4 months of just like, you know what, man, like who gives a fuck, I feel like I have value to provide. So I'm going to start putting my name out there,
Dude, we need people being real right now, honest right now about where they're at in life and what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. And that's perfect, man. I love it.
Awesome, Jake. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm about to go to my 5-year-old's Christmas party. So
all right, that's beautiful, man. Safe travels and take care until next time.
All right, brother. Thanks, Jake.